Hello and welcome to the Dynata training series. This is the second video in our Dynata Audience Solutions series. In this video, my colleague Eric Ritter and I will show you how to create and manage your research projects utilizing Samplify. In this video, we will show you how to add a new project and adjust your project settings, how to configure the target groups that you want to research within that project, evaluate the project's feasibility and costs, configure redirects and test your project prior to launching, as well as show you how to take your project live, review its performance while it is underway, and then reconcile your project once it has concluded. With that, I will now turn it over to my colleague Eric Ritter, who will actually walk you through all of the details.
Let's start off where we left after the first video. We can see we are on our own dashboard. You can see my list. And we're going to start this session by going to the blue button on the top right, which means we can add a new project. I click on it, and I'm going to be asked to put a project name in. I'm going to use today's date as an example purpose for the study, and then we're choosing between two options. One option is set up surveys. The second option is set up respondents. Set up surveys is the part where you enter the entry link to the survey, which you have either scripted in CMix or on any other platform, and where you also will see the redirects, including the basic security codes and so on. And that's where you're going to be doing the testing for your Samplify project as well. Set up respondents is the part where you choose what country do you want to do your research at, set up the parameters for your study, for example, the incidence rate, the LOI, and you'll be shown the pricing, as well as you're going to be able to select what targeting attributes do the panelists need to have, which you're looking for. I usually start by setting up respondents, as that gives me the flexibility of setting up what I want to, seeing if that is actually feasible, as well as I get the price before going through the hassle of actually setting up the complete survey. Let's click on Set up Respondents. And the first screen we're always going to be presented with is to choose our topic. It is very important to choose a topic which fits closest to your survey. It impacts the feasibility as well as it impacts the data which you're going to be receiving. We have some of our loyalty partners within our panels, and in order to avoid any bias, for example, using travel airlines would mean I've excluded all of the loyalty programs from the airlines in order to get accurate and completely unbiased data. In case our QA team would think that one of the categories doesn't fit the survey which you've chosen, they would let you know and ask to change it to something else afterwards. Hence, it is important, choose something which is closest fit to your study. I'm going to go with automotive for this study, continue to target, and going to be presented with the next screen. On this screen, we're choosing what devices do we want our study to be supporting. And this will determine from what devices panelists can enter your study. In this case, we can choose between desktop, mobile, and tablet. By default, all three are being selected. In case I just want desktop, I can simply untick mobile and tablet. That would mean we would just get people with it who open the link from a desktop, or the other way around. If I just want mobile and tablet, I simply untick desktop, and now I just get people who click on the link from a mobile or from a tablet. We can see underneath a customer PO number field. This is where you can put your PO number. This is one of the fields which is editable throughout the whole project lifecycle. It is also not dependent on any buttons to be clicked on beforehand. You can always edit it. And this field does not necessarily need to be filled out in order to start your project. But we highly recommend that if you work with PO numbers, that you at a certain stage throughout your project put it in there, as it eases up the billing at the end of the study. In case you have already worked with a couple of our Samplify projects in the past, you can set up exclusions. Exclusions simply can be enabled by ticking on this button, and then either I search for a project, for example, I search for test, which presents me with a list, as well as I can just use the drop-down menu. You are able to exclude every single project which had been set up within your company. This is not limited to just projects which you have set up. So in this case, I will see MP test Eric, which was one of mine. We have a benchmark test 1 and the benchmark test 2, which were from somebody else. To add them to the exclusion, I simply tick them, and I can see that they are added down here. Important to remember is when setting up exclusions is just completes are going to be excluded. And there is currently no time frame which can be set up for the exclusion. So in case you have run your study over 2 months and collected a big amount of completes, all of these completes over the whole 2 months will be excluded. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to be working without exclusions, and I'm going to be letting in all of our devices and start adding our target. Once we've clicked the new target button, we get to choose the basic settings for our target group. The first one is a name. By default, it will always be a new target group 1. I highly recommend to always label the target groups which you set up to be able to easily identify which target group was set up for what, as well as on your billing cycle. As you've seen in the previous video, you will get one line per target group, and however you named your target group, that is how the line is being named within the invoice. Let's call this, for example, UK. And then we actually start setting up our target group. First, we select the country. Here we have all of the countries available where Dynata does have a panel. And you have full access to every single panel available in every single country we own. You can go from Argentina, Austria, down to the UK, United States, and America. It is important to take into account that some countries might have a bigger panel behind it than others. So for example, the United States or the UK are 2 of our biggest panels, while if you go, for example, to Thailand, it is smaller. But you will see straight away, once you've set up this setting bit, if the actual amount which you're looking for is feasible without even setting any attributes up. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to take the United Kingdom for now. And we can see here, we automatically have a language selected. In this case, it's English UK. Clicking on this dropdown also shows us there's just one language available. We have automatically our main source set up. Here, you're going to be able to select which source you want to use. By default, it will be selected with Dynata Consumer, which includes all of Dynata's proprietary consumer and business panels. Any third-party panel that you would need can be set up via our Samplify marketplace, and after that would be available here to select as a sample source. And we can see down here that optional for estimates field, which is where if you set up a survey, this is where you would connect the survey, but we get to this at a later stage. Here we put in the LOI, which we estimate for our survey. In case you're unsure of how long the LOI of your study is, we usually recommend taking the amount of questions and divide them by 3 to get to a close enough number for the LOI. You can always test it and change it at a later stage as well. Then we're going to select how many completes do we want. In this case, I'm just going to use 1000. We're going to be asked to put an incidence rate in. I use 80. And how long do we want to be in field? In this case, I'm just going to use 5. And then the last option in the settings is what delivery mode do we want to use? You got 3 delivery modes available. The first one is even. Even means we literally want a straight line of completes throughout the 5 days. It would take the 1000 completes and divide them by 5, which means you would get 200 completes per day. Those 200 completes per day will also not just be achieved in the morning. The system tries to achieve them from the morning to the evening, then automatically pauses as soon as 200 completes are achieved and restarts automatically on the next day and does the same thing again. From the morning to the evening, it tries to spread the 200 completes which you need. The second one is the one which is the default whenever you add a new target group, which is standard. Standard means we are slightly front-loading our sample. So in this case, we would try to achieve about 80% of our sample within 3 days. The reason for that is most of the time, we do have people who speed through surveys, who need to be taken out because of bad open ends and straight lining. And to accommodate the time to pause your field, clean for quality-related purposes, and then continue, the field is front-loaded a little bit so that by the 5th day, we definitely have the 1,000 completes which we need, including everything which we need to fill up in addition to for. Now I'm going to save and define the attributes. And we're going to be presented with the first feasibility check. Whenever you press the Save and Define Attributes button, the system checks, is what I've put into the completes with that incidence rate in the amount of days which I put into the field days in possible, and gives a general check indicator on GenPop. In this case, we can see here with the man and the green tick, 1,000 completes in 5 days with 80% on GenPop is without any problem possible in the UK. The next point we would cover is setting up targeting attributes. What are we actually looking for? In the UK, we get 3 quick tabs already for our attributes. And these are always the same for each single country, can differ from country to country. So, for example, in gender, age, and region is being shown for the UK. In the US, we would, for example, see gender, age, and ethnicity as 3 quick tabs. These are the most used variables which are on each single country available. If I look for something else than those 3, I can simply go down here to the search bar and either click on it and use the drop down. We have everything categorized in here from demographics, over automotives, region, leisure. It's about 170 parameters currently available, and the amount of parameters being added to Samplify is growing. In case I don't want to look through this drop-down menu, what is available, I can also use the search function. You can either search by the parameter name or by a parameter answer. So in this case, if I, for example, look for something where Vodafone is included, a mobile phone provider in the UK, I simply type in Vodafone, and it will give me the parameters where Vodafone is an answer. In this case, we have personal mobile device brand or network provider or internet service provider. And clicking on the internet service provider, for example, scrolling down will show us, yes, Vodafone is in there. This is the tab which you're going to be provided on every single parameter you click on. It gives you at the very top 2 choices. Do I just want to include a filter? That means I don't care about the distribution of the answers which I've clicked on, or do I want to put an allocation in? The allocation allows you to put an allocation on the parameters which you set up, and you can decide either by percentages or by absolute completes how many percent of that answer do you want in total. Let's click here, for example, Vodafone, Tesco, Sky Broadband. Let's use BT and Clarinet and add it as a filter. We click Save, and this will be added to our target group. So now we're looking for 1,000 completes of people in the UK who have these as primary internet service provider. We can see here that this is an include, and BT, Clarinet, Sky Broadband, Tesco Broadband, and Vodafone. In case I decide I actually want to add something else, I can easily click on this little edit button here, and this allows me to add further. Press Save, and we can see the 2 which I've just edited were added to this one, and that was Aquis and a Beyonder from Telwest. In case I decide I do actually not want this as a filter, I do need this as an allocation, I can click on the edit as well and simply switch from a filter to an allocation. And here we can see we are now presented with an allocation for each single answer option. As we can see here as well, is we actually need to scroll through our whole bar to see everything. In order to make that easier, we have a little toggle view option here at the bottom where we can toggle on view selected only, and it would just show me the ones which I've selected and hides everything which I have not selected. That makes it easier to put an allocation on something where you have a long list of parameters in the answer options available. The allocation can be put in either via absolute numbers, or you can also use the percentages. In case you just want an even distribution, you can also just use the split evenly. That evenly spreads the amount of completes which you have selected, in this case 1000, by all of the answer options which you have selected. And in case I save this now, I can see that our parameter is switching from a filter to an allocation parameter, where we also can see here each line and the completes which are associated with it. In case I do want to change any of those percentages, I can either click into the edit again and change it here, or I can directly also just click in here on the allocation blue highlighted bar and make the changes here. One thing you can see already here is that after each single answer, we have the group option. Group option means we can group together parameters. So in case I want to group together BT and Sky Broadband, because technically speaking, they're using the same infrastructure, I simply select group at BT, select the parameter I want to group it with, update it, and now I have those two grouped. After each time you group, all the allocations which you have set up will be automatically erased and you will need to set them up again. That's why it might be easier rather than using the press on and to group, but to use the actual edit functionality and group via here. Here again, we select group BT and click to B Sky B, update, and now have it updated. Press the split equally button again and have an even spread over everything. Saving this now will show us that BT and Sky Broadband or B Sky B is now put together and everything is on 167 completes. Let's set up a couple more parameters. For example, let's use gender out of the quick option. Simply click on here. I can use select all, have male and female, put them as an allocation, split even, save. Next thing I set up is age. I also want age as an allocation and I want a good split. I start with 16, go to 24, add another one, 25, 34, and 35 to 50, and another one which we just put as 51 to 100. Here again, we have 4. I just split it even because I just want a good spread. 25% of each seems to be nice to me. Press save. Now we've added gender, primary internet service provider, and we added age. In case I do want to interlock any of these quotas, because I usually don't like the fact that females and males are in a row quota together with age. I rather make sure that I have a good even distribution of each of those age brackets for the gender. I can simply press the nest button on one of the quota lines, select what I want to cross it with. In this case, I use gender, update, and I'll see now I have it interlocked. By default, it will always even it out. If you want to do any adjustments to the allocation of the interlock quotas, you can simply click here and, for example, edit this to 140 and press save. Oh, we can see we cannot save this yet because we still need to remove 15 completes. There's an internal check, and that works for every single allocation, where you always need to end up at 100% of the sample size. If you're below or above, it won't let you save, and hovering over the save button will always tell you how much do you still need to add or how much do you need to take off. In this case, we need to take off 15 completes at 1. So let's just take 15 off here. And we can see now we're at 100% and we have a blue save button again. Once this is saved, we have this set up now with interlocked age and gender quotas and the primary internet. Let's actually check if we would want to run this in the UK for 1000 completes in 5 days with 80% IR, Would this actually be possible to achieve? Would there be any difficulties in any of those lines? Checking the feasibility is very easy. We simply scroll up to the settings page again and see a Get Estimate button. We press on here and can see it is now checking the feasibility. And we get the first indicator back here again that the 1000 completes for everything I've set up is possible. And scrolling down even shows us the feasibility for each single quota line. In this case, 16 to 24-year-old females without any problem possible. We need 140. We would get 780 in 5 days. Similar to for Aquis, we would need 167. In 5 days, we would be able to get 309 completes. In case you do get a message that something is not feasible, or you see the third option, which is a man with a yellow sign and an exclamation mark in it, which means it could be very tight to achieve that. Try expanding your days in field. If you set this up to 8, and we just have a close eye on those 309, pressing the Get Estimate button will now check the feasibility for 8 days, and we're most likely going to be higher than what we've seen there before. We can see now 362 would be possible. So giving your field more time potentially improves the feasibility if there are any tight spots within your feasibility. Okay, let's go to the point where if you want to duplicate one of your target groups because you want to run something similar, but you want to run it with a slightly different twist. So in case for this one, I have this set up with age and gender interlocked, primary internet service provider. I would simply go up here, duplicate it, and can see now we got a UK copy. I would just call this UK2. And have a second one set up. Now that we have set up these two target groups, let's get ready to launch the project. To do that, we need to first set up the survey links, which will be used to deliver your survey to your sample. Now we're going to the second section of our project, which is the survey section. We can easily access it by going over to this tab and click on the insert link, and can see we're going to be presented with our first survey. I also here recommend always name it. In this case, we had two target groups, and this is going to be the entry link for UK1. And put my prepared link in. Important here is always put a base link in. If you do have any variables which have already been set up within your system, you do set them up afterwards. By default, use a base link without any variables. The system, as you will see now, automatically attaches a question mark and the two variables which our system needs in order to function. In case you're unfamiliar with these two parameters, one is the panelist ID, which is a unique and static identifier we use for panelists across all surveys launched with Dynata. We call this variable PID within our platform. The session ID, on the other hand, is a unique identifier we use for panelists within a survey. We call this variable PSID within our platform. Both variables will be displayed in the URL as PID and PSID. We can see here at the bottom the entry links. In this case, we can also see here is the basic parameter. That one changes for every single project. That is one of the basic security functionalities within Samplify. And we can also see that the redirect which you need to use has a placeholder for the PSID. So whatever ID is piped through this PSID by our system needs to be piped from your system back into here. You can simply copy them, put them into your system. Same for the disqualification over quota link. In case you do work with a live and a test link pair, I highly recommend using this functionality down here. Clicking on it will allow you to add a test link. In this case, I use my test link from CMix, save it, and can also see here it automatically attaches PID and PSID again. The only thing missing to finish up my survey setup now is to test for complete. You will see here that red it shows test required. Once I click this test button, I do a virtual tour from a panelist from entering via the entry link, going into the survey, filling out the survey, and coming back via the redirect. And just if that works, we will see that the test is complete And we will see in a second that there's an ID which will be shown down here, which had been generated for this test, is also green. And just then we can actually connect our survey to our respondent page. We just click on the test, go into the test preview, and quickly test, and come back, refresh, and can now see test successful. As well as we can see, the ID which you've used is green and has a tick. That means everything worked, and this survey is ready to be used. Now we go back to the respondents part. We can either go via the continue to respondents, or we click on the respondents up here. I usually prefer this button here at the bottom because we are closer down there already when we've clicked the test button. We go to the survey which we want to launch. In this case, we just focus on the UK, and now go to the survey part. This is the part where we connect the target group which we set up with the link which we set up. Simply click on here, and we can see here the UK one which we've set up is selectable. Click on it, click out of it to save it, press the Get Estimate button again, and now we get the green launch button. We can also see here, and you've probably recognized it throughout the whole setup of the target group already, from the first moment you click on the Save and Get to Attribute section, a cost is shown up here. You will see the CPI as well as the estimated cost for the total amount of completes which you put in there. This will always update live. So in case I do change my mind and just want 800, changing it to 800, pressing the Get Estimate button will give me, of course, the feasibility again for 800, which we know is possible because it was previously possible with 1000. But now it will also show us updated costs for 800 completes. Now we can see 2500 completes. Okay, last part is actually clicking that launch button on our target group. What happens after that? Once I click that launch button, I will see that our study is live and queued. Short while, we can see then it should go from a queued to a live status. That means that the QA team had approved it. And I've talked briefly about the QA team beforehand. Whenever you press that launch button, your study will be sent to our QA team, who are checking that your redirects are working, that the correct category has been selected, and that whatever you've selected here, they are actually able to. One of the last two parts missing is how do I actually see the project performance and the reconciliation of your project once you're done. For that point, I switch to my dashboard, go to a company list, go to launched, and click on this project. I usually like using this project for the purpose of showing how the target performance is going to be looking. Scroll down here, and here we can see, as soon as you press that launch button, the target performance, which is grayed out and just available after launch, fills with the live data. You will straight away see an indication of how many completes from what you wanted are already achieved. You can see how many starts that you had in your project, and of these starts, how many percent, or in case you want to go by numbers, the absolute number was completes, incompletes, screenouts, over quotas, or completes refused. Completes refused is everything at the bottom 1/3 of the median LOI gets automatically a complete refused. These complete refused won't count towards your complete count and will also not be put on your invoice, because we assume that these are speeders, hence bad quality, and you will not need to pay for them. You get a basic overview over your conversion, as well as it compares the incidence rate to what you've put in. In this case, 100% was put in. We are actually at 94%, and we've put 1 minute LOI in, and we are actually at a 1 minute LOI. So this was for the overview of the performance metrics. The last part missing is how do I reconcile a project? For that, we quickly jump back into our target group, which we have set live here, and simply pause again, and then we can see here a close project button. Pressing this prompt up the message, are you sure you want to close and build this project? Once you press the close button on here, you will not be able to add any target groups to this study. This is a final decision where the project will get closed, and in case you do want to run another study, you will need to duplicate this project and set everything up in it again. Close this project, and now can only see here a cost summary. This gives a basic overview over what we will see in the invoices tab as well. In this case, we can see the two target groups which she had set up, UK, UK2. Both had 0 completes, and the CPI for both was 313. And because we didn't have any completes, there's of course no cost associated. It is already possible to download the basic summary over here. That is the same summary as what you would see when you go to Invoice tab and Summary, which shows exactly the same. Also here we got the option to download our summary. Clicking this button will download the summary as a PDF, which shows exactly the same thing. This is especially useful if you do want this for your own documentation. And one last aspect which we haven't covered so far is what happens if you need to clean for quality-related issues. In case for this example, we have 7 completes collected, but can just use 5. 2 had to be cleaned because of straight lining. That means I of course don't want to pay $5 for 2 completes which I can't use. So I'm not happy with the $17.50 here. In all of those cases, we can use the request correction button. The request correction button ensures that you can upload the IDs which you needed to clean and put the description in place. And this directly goes to your account manager and will be taken into account for the invoicing. We download the example template, and within this template, we've entered the IDs which we had to clean with the reason why we had to clean them. Entering the reason is quite easy. There are 5 columns where we just need to place an X, depending on what they had been cleaned for. And then we upload that file. Let's do a test 1, test 2. Depending on what we cleaned them for, we put an X into speeding if test 31 had been cleaned for speeding, and test 32 had been cleaned for straight lining. So we put an X in straight lining. Then we save this file and we upload it. In case you do have to upload bad quality because of bad open ends, do submit a text as well. That will help make it easier to flag those panelists to our panel quality team. Okay, then the last missing bit after we filled out the template and uploaded it is entering a description. Entering a description always makes it easier for your account managers to straight away see for how much completes you want to pay and how much you need to clean, without actually needing to have a look into the template, count all of the IDs, and then enter that in our back office system. In this case, I would let the account manager know that I want to pay for 5 completes. I had to clean 2 IDs because of straight lining. That we would send to our account manager, and the invoice which we receive will take that into account. This concludes the second video of our training session series for Samplify. In this video, we covered everything about creating and managing your project, from the settings, setting up target groups, launching, checking feasibility, as well as closing and reconciling your project. The next video will cover advanced tips and tricks for Samplify on how to run multi-country studies, custom identifiers, using data appends, and other things. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and we hope you have found this video helpful. Please reach out to us in case you have any questions, and be sure to ask Dynata for end-to-end help with your research and audience needs.